I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think I found the place. When you walk into the next room, there's kind of this little space right here, so I feel like you could do a bookshelf either on this wall or both. And I think it's pretty obvious, y'all. We're gonna put some bookshelves. Bookshelf, bookshelf. These walls are where we're gonna do bookshelves eventually. In a week and a half, all of these books are gonna be up on that shelf. We're working on floating shelves in our entryway area. There's gonna be an entire video about that, just that whole process. I know it's so annoying that I just like said that we're making a bookshelf and then I never showed it again. In February 2025, we set out on a journey to make shelves from scratch. What started as a simple idea slowly turned into standing until sunset, crying over literal planks of wood, and overall a very humbling experience. This project is complete a year and a month after we started it. Needless to say, we had no clue what we were getting into. This drawing is bad. It's bad. I didn't think it was going to be a work of art, but I'm kind of shocked. Like, in my mind, I was going to do a much better job than this. Hopefully you guys can kind of understand what I was trying to communicate, but I also have inspiration photos from Pinterest that, honestly, I should have just skipped the drawing altogether and just shown these. This is what we're going for, okay? This is the vibe. Ideally, we can make our shelves match the wood flooring in our home. We have this really dark, rich wood flooring, and we would like to find a stain that matches that as best as possible. Obviously, we don't know what stain they use for these floors, so it's just gonna be our best guess. These are the mounts that we're using. They're kind of the most innocuous mount that we could find. A lot of the shelves in these photos seem like they have an internal mount, which is when like the wood slips. Like you slip the mount inside the wood, which is how you get the most floating shelf possible, but that's just a little bit out of our wheelhouse. Looking on Pinterest, there's a lot of floating shelves that have mounts that are more visible. I don't even know if they're considered floating shelves at that point. I eventually had to come around to the idea of floating shelves because when we first moved in here, I was kind of wanting more of like a piece of furniture, like a bookcase. My boyfriend has always wanted floating shelves. I think what made me come around to it was the idea of the corner shelves. Like I'm not as interested in floating shelves if it's just on one wall. For that space, you couldn't do two bookshelves. Like it would cut off the space, it would look weird. We're maximizing the amount of books we have while also keeping the space very open. A lot of these corner shelves are built in different ways. Sometimes there's like two planks that meet in the corner. Sometimes there's three pieces where there's like a separate third piece that goes in the corner. There's different ways to do it, but we are doing two planks that meet in the corner. The planks are going to be different measurements because the walls are different lengths and we want the end of the shelving to come off the same distance from the end of the wall. And that right there, those specific measurements that we need for our wood is why we are doing this ourselves. Because obviously when we first had this idea, we were looking online to see if something like this was for sale. A lot of the stuff that you'll find is short. Like they're corner floating shelves that are pretty short. They would not extend the full length of the wall in the way that we want. And even if they did sell longer ones, which I'm sure they do somewhere, but they wouldn't be the specific measurements that we need. AKA, you would have to get it custom made, which we're not doing because it would cost a fortune. And we also don't own this place. So we're not really trying to do a whole investment, but we do want what we want. So we're going to try to make it look as nice as possible for as cheap as possible. This video either is going to be so exciting and such a crazy transformation and we're going to be really proud of ourselves, or maybe it's gonna look really bad. I've always foreseen this phase in my life coming, like where I do stuff around the house, like wood staining and like refurbishing things, but I always pictured it happening when I actually owned a home. So this phase is coming sooner in my life than I thought, but I'm excited. This is like the first home project that I've ever done. And I'm sure in a couple of years, I'll look back on this project and be like, okay, that was such a bad first project, because I think about my first knitting project and it was like not good. It was sweet, but it was like not the best, you know, a lot of mistakes. But you have to have a first project to get good at something like this. Yesterday, we did go to Home Depot. We started getting a bunch of supplies. We're going back to get the wood today, a few more supplies. We've watched a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of stuff online. I think we're well prepared. It's gonna take a few days because you have to like wait for things to dry, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be over the course of the next few days, but hopefully a week from now, there are shelves on this wall.
And then actually, I'm so sorry, for one of those glazed. Can we actually make that a chocolate ice with sprinkles?
Okay, anything else for you?
No, that's it.
Alright, 21.62.
Alright, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ooh, gorge. If they're hot, I like the original. If they're not hot, I'm kind of like an original or a chocolate sprinkles. I think I'm gonna do chocolate sprinkles.
No, when they're hot, the original are to die for.
There's something about the crunch of the sprinkles on the donut that I love. I also love a cruller, which I feel like not a lot of people dig, but I love a cruller. A home project between two people is more than just a project. It's communication, patience, and compromise in disguise. The IKEA marriage test is this thing where people think that before you marry someone, you should be able to build a piece of IKEA furniture without wanting to kill them and never speak to them again. I don't think it has to be a piece of IKEA furniture, and I don't think it even has to be with someone who you want to get married to. I think it could be with a friend or a family member, but there is a sentiment there in that test that I think is true. There are easy home projects and there are hard ones. There are serious long-term relationships and there are more chill ones, or relationships that are new that may become serious one day, but they're just starting out. IKEA furniture can be frustrating sometimes, but there are instructions, and you can honestly do this with someone who you've only been on a handful of dates with. Building a tree house, like my dad did for me and my siblings, that is very hard, and something only a father who loves and cares about his children would even think about attempting. All I'm saying is that choosing to start a project with someone will tell you a lot about the relationship, and how that project goes will tell you even more.
48 inches flat.
It has a splinter right here.
That's fine. It has this thing.
Compared to all those others, I mean, but that's not as deep as that other one.
No, and it's like, that could look cool when it's done.
Yeah, that one looks fine. I mean, the other ones just have such.
Oh, good. Good. We're part of the way there. Let's look at this one. We need 45 feet. This is 32 feet. One good one of these would get us over there.
Okay, and then we're fine with we have every single shelf for that?
Yeah, we do.
We picked out all of our wood. Now we're going to get it cut. So we're doing 5 5-foot boards and then 5 4-foot boards. Our friends, Bassam and Caitlin, they have a table saw, so we're bringing all of the wood over to his place so we can make sure all of the wood panels are the exact right length, level, blah, 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 because when the guy was cutting it at Home Depot, he was kind of cutting on an angle, you know, he wasn't doing like exactly the right measurements because, you know, what does he care? Anyways, we're going to Bassam and Caitlin's house before the sun sets so we can get all of the boards correct. We're kind of racing against the sunlight. It's been a pretty gloomy day in general, but I think the sun sets in like, I don't know. Bassam owns a table saw, so he also knows a lot too, so it's gonna be helpful for him to be like, okay, let's do this, let's do this.
I don't understand how he didn't do this.
Like how that's uneven?
How that's uneven.
Yeah.
What did he, okay.
Bassam was such a big help, literally so kind of him to help us. I don't think he knew what he was getting into because I posted on Instagram that we were like buying this wood and building shelves, and he was like, oh, let me know if you need any help, whatever. And we showed up with all of this wood and he was like, oh shit, this is like a lot of wood. And we were like, yeah. Back at Home Depot, I actually wonder how many times we're gonna come here before this project is over. Ta-da! It's $50. It's not bad. It's not that good either. It's sanding day. Woo! Sanding day! Today is a gorgeous day. Yesterday we started working on this a little bit, but we were kind of racing against the sunset, but all we were doing was matching up the boards into pairs, how they're gonna meet in the corner at every single level. So there's gonna be 5 sets of shelves, so we were putting them all in pairs of 2, and then we were just doing a little bit of like the dowel system, which I think we still have 2 more pairs that we have to do the dowel system with, so you guys will see that. It's essentially just doing little wood pieces so they meet at like a good angle. Yeah, I'm gonna explain it a little bit better than that. These 2 tiny metal spikes are the backbone of this project. They are called dowel center finders. They help you align pieces of wood accurately. Using one of our shorter planks, we drilled 2 holes, inserted the dowel finders into each hole, lined up this plank with the longer plank that we paired it with to create a right angle, and then we pressed these 2 planks together. When you pull away, the dowel finders will have created tiny little divots. These are the exact center marks for your dowels. We drilled 2 more holes using those exact marks. Put our dowels in to double check that the holes matched up perfectly, and then we repeated this process for every single pair of planks. Without these dowel center finders, you're guessing about hole placement, and with them, alignment is basically foolproof. Now that we're done with that, we can start sanding. The sanding is taking a little while. Okay, we finished 2 boards and it just took a little bit longer than we were anticipating. So I'm actually gonna go out and grab another orbital sander so we can kind of do double duty and both sand at the same time, because I've just been kind of like standing around. We've been taking turns, but we were like, okay, we should just go get another one so we can just do this faster. And then I'm gonna go pick us up lunch. It's like a late lunch. I'm gonna go get Jersey Mike's for us. Found the orbital sanders. I'm at Ace Hardware. I don't know the difference between these 3. Actually, this one looks really similar to the one we have. Proud new owner of an orbital sander. This was the last one left of this style. I mean, there was a few other styles. Well, there was 2 orbital sanders. One is battery powered and then this one is corded, and I ended up getting the corded because that's what we have at home, and I don't have to charge it before I start using it. It's not going to die in the middle of us sanding. He took this one down off the display for me. And then I got 3 more things of sandpaper just in case we run out, just 80, 120, and 220. I got a giant turkey provolone. I figure I can have the other half tomorrow for lunch. Sanding is by far the most time-consuming part of this project, and the most monotonous. We used a technique called the pencil trick as we sanded. You scribble pencil on every side of the plank and you sand until the pencil marks are completely gone. This ensures even and complete coverage. We used 3 levels of sandpaper. So we scribbled pencil, then we sanded. Pencil, sanded on every single side of every single plank. So sanding took about a day and a half. Definitely longer than we thought. I mean, we knew it was gonna take a while because every single board kind of requires 3 different rounds of sanding. I did learn though that it goes quicker once you get higher up in grit. 80 takes the most time, 120 takes a little bit less time, 220 just like flies by. Like the pencil markings just come off faster and faster as you go up in grit. But yeah, it took a while. It took a while, y'all. Very happy that the sanding stage is over. So now we're on to the preconditioner and the staining phase. I will say one thing that we're not doing. Maybe we should do filling in the knots on the planks with wood filler. We have a few knots. Nothing is like so crazy deep, but we do have a few knots that we could fill in with wood filler. The wood filler essentially would fill in the knot to make it a more even surface, / when you stain the wood, I think around knots, it gets a little bit more discolored. It just like soaks into the holes and the pockets a little bit differently. I know that the preconditioner helps with that discoloration around the knots, so the preconditioner will hopefully help us a little bit, but I guess if we wanted to be like the most thorough and the most intense possible, we would use wood filler to fill in those little pockets. But also I think it's kind of up to the person making it, you know, like if you want a more rustic feel, if you don't want to fill in the knots because you think that makes it look like too sleek and clean and you don't think it like looks natural, then you don't have to fill in the knots, which isn't why we're doing it. We're not like trying to go for a more rustic feel. I think we just like don't really care. But yeah, I thought I would just throw that in there. We're skipping the whole wood filler epoxy. I am kind of nervous for this stage, I'm gonna be honest, because I just think there's kind of an art with staining. Like I think it's something that you get better at over time. Obviously, I have never stained a piece of wood. I've watched a lot of videos on it. Like I've seen, you know, how to apply it, how to wipe it off, blah, blah, blah. Like I've watched a lot of stuff about it, but at the same time, I think it's just something that you probably get better at the more you do it. I'm just nervous because we took a day and a half to sand every single board. And if the staining is what messes this thing up, I'm just gonna be like, oh my God, why did we even spend all of that time sanding just for the staining process to go wrong? So fingers crossed that this goes well. Before we start staining, we need to prop our planks up using these painter's tripods. These help elevate your project off your work surface so you can paint the sides of your wood a little bit better. They don't cause too much damage to your wood, just a tiny little divot, honestly similar to the impression that the dowel center finders made. But if I were you, I would just try to not reposition them too much. When I was first propping them up, I kept moving them around and readjusting, and I ended up with more spots than I had to have. They're not super noticeable, but they are avoidable, so I would just try to prop up the planks in one go and don't move them around. The stain color we picked was red mahogany. We were between this color and espresso. I thought espresso matched our floors better, but my boyfriend thought that red mahogany matched better. Spoiler alert, he was right. The shelves actually match our floors perfectly, which you guys will see soon, and I'm so happy that we went with his choice here. Before staining, you apply a preconditioner. Our stain is oil-based, and so we got a preconditioner that is also oil-based. We applied the preconditioner with a foam brush, and for the stain, we used rags. Other supplies for this include a wooden stick to stir the liquids because you're not supposed to shake the cans, gloves, and then also masks and goggles, which we've been using during the sanding process. I did the pre-wood conditioner, and I fear I might have made a very bad mistake. You're supposed to apply the conditioner and then wipe the excess off, which I did not do. It's early in the morning, and for some reason I thought that you were just supposed to do that with the stainer. You like apply it and then you wipe the excess off. I didn't think that you did that with the pre-conditioner, and I read online that if you don't wipe the excess off, that then the stain is gonna come out splotchy and like fucked up. So I think I might have just like ruined the whole thing, which is great. It says to not let it dry entirely before you wipe off the excess, and I very much have let it dry entirely. I'm gonna cry a little bit off camera. Okay, even though I was just crying, staining was my favorite part of this entire process. It really made the whole project come to life, and all of the sanding felt like it finally paid off. Also, the way you apply a stain was my favorite. Out of all of the different liquids that we applied, this method was the best. You dip a rag into the stain and generously apply it to the wood, wiping with the grain until it's all coated. After that, you take a second rag and wipe off all the excess for an even finish. After I went through all 10 boards, I went back to the beginning and flipped them over, balancing them on the painter's tripods. From this angle, you can really see how I'm applying the stain and excess and wiping off what's left. I really can't stress enough, getting to this part of the project was a breath of fresh air. It was the most fun, it went by the fastest, and giving the wood some color just felt like a light at the end of the tunnel. Even though we had way more to go, it felt like everything was starting to come together. I did cry over some wood, and I was feeling ridiculous because I was like, it's literally wood. Why am I crying over wood? But at this point, we've just spent so much time doing this that I was like, if this is fucked up by one stupid mistake that I made, that was just gonna kind of be the last straw, but I think it looks fine. I don't think it looks splotchy. I would be curious to see if I had wiped one of these off, if I would be able to even tell the difference, but I feel like it looks okay. So hopefully the crisis has been avoided. First, stain is done, so exciting. I don't remember how long you have to wait in between stains. I think it's like 12 to 24 hours, and it's 11:14 a.m. right now, so I guess I could do this at midnight if I wanted to, but I'll probably wake up and do it in the morning. Applying the stain with the rag goes so much faster than applying the preconditioner with a brush. And I think you can apply preconditioner with a rag because when you're supposed to wipe it off, which I didn't do, you wipe it off with a rag. So I feel like you could also apply it with a rag. We watched a lot of videos and people were using foam brushes, which is why we bought the foam brushes. So maybe there's a reason why you're supposed to use a brush. I don't know. I'm saying all of this, I'm gonna have to look it up, but love the rag. The rag is so much better than the foam brush. If we had purchased these shelves, no wonder it's so expensive. Do you see how long it's taking us to do this? The supplies, amount of time, the tears. I still would do it all over again. I feel like we've learned so much. I do get very frustrated and overwhelmed, but I love this kind of thing. In total, we did 3 layers of stain and we waited 24 hours in between each. For oil-based stains, the general rule is to wait 12 to 24 hours. We did the max because why not? And also because doing it at 12 hours, like I mentioned before, meant working in the dark after sunset. If we stained in the morning at 8 a.m., then by 8 p.m. it was already dark, so it just didn't make sense to rush it. I keep talking about why staining was the best step in this entire project, but waiting in between each layer was awesome because we literally couldn't do any more work on it. The sanding and the doweling, it was such an active job. We were at it nonstop. And with staining, it was a little bit of work and a lot of waiting around. And with each stain, the wood just kept looking better and better. I can't believe we're starting the polyurethane. You've really done your research. I've completely missed out on all of this.
I watched like a 20-minute video last night.
This mixture is 3 parts polyurethane, 1 part paint thinner. Cutting the polyurethane with paint thinner helps create a smoother finish, it flows more easily, levels out better, and reduces brush marks and bubbles.
So you open it up, you let it drip. Start in the center of the board, and very lightly, no pressure, just draw it across. Now the one benefit he said of this is that like the oil, since it takes longer to settle, all the little bubbles will kind of sort themselves out. You do this thing called feathering. You just come back from the top again and just go all the way across. Now the ox hair gives a smoother finish than this will give. See, if we had the right brush, it would be coming out a lot better.
Apparently an ox hair brush is the best brush you can use for this, but none of the stores that we went to had one, so I think we ended up with an ox hair synthetic fiber hybrid brush. Now I thought the staining would be the part that required a skilled touch, but honestly it was the polyurethane. Polyurethane isn't as forgiving of mistakes. Ours didn't turn out bad by any means, and maybe having a true ox hair brush would have made our finish flawless, but honestly I don't know. I mean, we were also working outside where there was dirt and debris, things that could float and stick itself to the polyurethane, and that was unavoidable. But of course there were other things that were entirely avoidable. It did rain last night. We didn't think it was gonna rain last night, so we didn't bring them in, but actually I think they're okay. Don't want to speak too soon. We're wiping off the water. Yeah, like these back here didn't get as wet. That one was the one that was the most wet.
These two,
closest to the edge.
I mean,
we'll read about it and see what they say. I mean, obviously they're gonna say like, yeah, like don't don't get water, but like
yes,
I think you could. It looks like this. That one over there. It had like this amount of water on it. This is not in any way a tutorial. Like if you're trying to make shelves, maybe watch some other things. Do your own research, okay? Which I feel like I don't even have to say. It's like, who's gonna watch this and be like, I'm gonna do exactly what they're doing? It's our first time doing any of this. But you know, we're trying our best.
If anything, this is a how not to build shelves.
Yes.
We're explicitly showing you.
Yeah, maybe like all the mistakes we made. Actually, we haven't made that many mistakes. Actually, one of my favorite things that people do, like on social media, whenever they're talking about anything medical, they're always like, and I am not a doctor. And it's like, okay, no one actually thought that you were, but it's like people make you feel like you have to say that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a woodworker. Okay, who's gonna watch this and think that I am? Obviously, do your own research. I can't believe I even have to say it. It wouldn't be crazy if someone watched this video and did do everything that we're doing. Like I hope some of you guys watching this are inspired to make shelves, but at the same time, it would be crazy if you only watch this video. Watch this video, get inspired, and then go watch a bunch of other videos. I feel like you should probably look into it a little bit more.
If anything, this is the video you watch when you're like, man, they're making this look so easy, and when I try it, it's harder. Than you watch this, it's like, oh, it's like
those
wow,
two fucking idiots.
Those two fucking idiots made it look really hard, and it was pretty simple.
I will say this entire project has made me feel like so powerful. I think I said this morning, I was like, wait, let's like buy a house and renovate it. Like let's buy a shitty house and let's completely redo it. And like I think that we could.
You know, the funny thing is I've almost taken like the opposite message. All we're doing is like a couple shelves and it's taking this much time.
Yeah, we should never renovate a house.
Renovating a house is so much more work.
We took a little bit of a pause on this project. It was wet and rainy and dreary. There weren't really good working conditions. We ended up bringing all of the wood inside into our second bedroom. And so it's been in our guest bedroom for about a week and a half. The weather app looks good, okay? It's not supposed to rain for like 8 more days. We found the motivation to pick the project back up. And so today we are continuing on with our coats of polyurethane. In between each layer of polyurethane, we sanded with a brown paper bag, which acted as a really fine sandpaper. We sanded very lightly and wiped the dust away before going in with the next coat. The polyurethane that we used recommended waiting anywhere from 24 to 48 hours in between coats. We did 3 coats in total, but this process took much longer than the staining, even though we also did 3 coats with that, because we couldn't flip over the planks to do the other side until it fully dried like we were able to do with the staining. So even though we only did 3 coats, it was actually 6 rounds of applying the polyurethane and waiting for those those 24 to 48 hours in between. This took us over a week to get through, which is why we waited for the weather to clear up completely. So we had 8 days of sunshine. We knew we weren't gonna have to bring them in, bring them out again. They might be in the middle of drying. We would leave fingerprints. It was just much better to wait until we had like a good solid week of good weather. On the right side of this plank, you can see our big mistake with the polyurethane. During our first coat, we didn't think to check the sides for excess liquid that dripped off. So we ended up with like a drip effect that dried and just thicker areas of polyurethane, but we quickly learned to check the sides and wipe away the excess. The boards are done. The situation is that these boards all need to be mounted by tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Throwing a baby shower for my sister tomorrow, okay? She's having a baby. Obviously, these shelves don't have to be mounted before the party tomorrow, but I would like for this home just to look a little bit better than it currently does. A lot of different family members are gonna be over here tonight helping set up for the party, putting up decorations. Unfortunately, my boyfriend is working late tonight. Like, I don't think he's gonna get home until like midnight. So I already called up my dad and I said, hey, when you get to Atlanta, would you be open to the idea of helping me mount these shelves that we've been working on? I don't think we're gonna have enough time to do all of them, so I think he's just gonna help me with half. Luckily, my dad is amazing. He's down and he also genuinely enjoys woodworking. Like, it is a hobby of his. Thank God for dads who love a power tool.
You want these proportional, so we would have to 5.5 feet left between here and there.
Since we last talked, my sister carried her baby to full term, had that baby, and she is now crawling and is just starting to say mama. So that is how much time has passed if you need any sort of perspective. We did mount half of these shelves and then just completely stopped. But today we're mounting the rest. Maybe not all of them. We're just going to start with 1 or 2, kind of dip our toes in the water. It's just one of those things when you start a project and then you abandon it for 10 months. It's fine because we're picking it up again today because I was like, you know what? 2026 is our year. I don't really have a good excuse except for when you stop momentum on something, it's so hard to start it up again. It really is. And it's just one of those things. Like, we had so much gusto in the beginning. Like, we were so determined doing this whole thing from scratch. We really fumbled the ball. I know we're going to do this and it's going to take us like a couple of hours. We're going to be like, okay, could have done this like 10 months ago, but whatever. Let's see if we can remember like how to use any singular tool. What is a screw? I don't know. What's a leveler? Not sure. SDG. Heart. Everyone be sweet. I'm like really scared you guys are gonna be like, what's wrong with you? Sometimes we stop a project. We're doing these pillars of books to help us hold up the plank on the wall because when we got our entertainment center mounted, the guy did that, you know, to help you hold it and stuff. Obviously it might not be putting it in the exact right spot, but just so you don't have to hold it up the whole time, it can kind of like help you a little bit. So that's what we're doing. We mounted these 3 shelves and then we kind of sat with it. Okay, we sat with it for a week or 2 or 3. You know what, at this point, here is the question. The question is, should we skip this 4th shelf? Okay, we could leave out this panel of wood. There could be a gap between this 3rd shelf and the top one. There would be room for like a flower vase. You could lean a frame against the wall. You could hang a frame on the wall. Just allow for like larger objects. I've seen a lot of photos on Pinterest where people do that and it looks really cool. And I honestly like didn't know what I wanted to do. So we kind of just like waited a beat. I was like, let's sit with it. Let's like think about it. You know, what's the rush at this point? Like, we've waited this long. I did a poll on Instagram. I posted on TikTok being like, are you pro gap or are you anti-gap? I also asked you guys in a video a while ago being like, what do you think? And it seems like most people on every single platform are kind of pro gap. Me too, okay? That's why this is a conversation in the first place, is because I saw so many people leaving a gap that I was like, wait, I want to do that. But I am here to say, okay, after sitting on this for like 3 weeks, anti-gap. You know what? Like, this is the book area. This is the library area. We have surfaces everywhere else in the house. Why am I adding another surface that I have to like decorate and figure out like how to style it? Like, no. I think the gap sounds cool, but honestly, like, I feel like that's just giving myself more work. I also will say, me and Mr. Bug last night, we did a 3, 2, 1 countdown where we both said our decision. Like, I was like, okay, 3, 2, 1. And after 1, we're both going to say gap or no gap. Last night we did 3, 2, 1. No gap. So we're on the same page. Also, for mounting, not skipping a space is actually going to be much easier. Technically doing the gap is less work, but it actually just like measuring and like doing all of it, it's actually much easier to do all of them at this point. And so we're mounting them all. We're mounting them all. I feel bad for even asking anyone's opinion on every single platform because I feel like most people wanted a gap, but we're not doing a gap. Also, low key, we made all of these planks of wood. Like, I will be damned if we don't use every single one of them. I think we're finishing this project today. It took about a year, but I think we're finishing it today. The shelves are done and I love them. I'm obsessed with them. Obviously, they're pretty empty. We're gonna have to fill them up. We achieved exactly what we were envisioning. I'm kind of stunned. I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of impressed by us, honestly. The stain of this wood is a near perfect match to the floors in our house. It honestly looks like these went in at the same time as the floor. Some final thoughts before we close out this project. Obviously, throughout this video, I mentioned some mistakes that we made, you know, the polyurethane dripping down the sides of the wood or moving the planks too much on the painter's tripods. But the biggest mistake or hiccup I haven't even told you guys about, it was with the mounting. Houses are not built perfectly. Okay, the corners in your house or in your apartment, they look like they're 90 degrees, but they are not a perfect 90-degree angle. The angle might be slightly off. The walls are a little bit bumpy. Our planks that we matched up in pairs, we put them at a 90-degree angle to the best of our ability. Those pairs were never going to fit perfectly snug in the corner because there's a margin for error. You know, the corner's not a perfect 90-degree angle. Our planks might not even be a perfect 90-degree angle. Inevitably, those things not matching perfectly will create some sort of a gap, which we knew this going in. The only way to get a perfectly snug fit to your corner is to cut the wood to match the exact angle and surface of your walls. When my dad and I mounted this first set, we pushed these planks all the way up flat against this wall. In doing that, when it came time to mount these shelves, using the original dowel holes that we created and matching them up, it left a larger gap over here. And this is more visible when you walk in. So we did not want that to kind of be the first thing that you saw when you walk in the door, was just how far off this wood was from the wall. At that moment, we could pick where we wanted the gap to go. It could be here or it could be here back behind these books. We decided to put the gap here on the inside because it'd be covered by books, but because we wanted to put it there instead of having it be here, which was more visible, we had to redowel all of these planks. So as we were mounting these, we were actually redoweling everything. That whole situation could have been avoided if when we were mounting this first set, we didn't push them flat up against the wall. If we left a little bit of a gap with the first planks, then these planks could have met at the correct angle with the original dowel marks, and then the gap would have been spread throughout the entire shelving. Again, we did have an understanding of this going in, but on that night that my dad was here, I was like, yep, push them flat up against the wall. That's great. We want them in the corner, whatever. I just like wasn't having forethought. If my boyfriend had been here that night, he might have caught it. And also my dad was just mounting half, so he wasn't really thinking about the future of the project. When we realized this issue, we also could have gone back and unscrewed these and pulled them off the wall a little bit, but we persevered. You know, like the gap is covered up. You guys can't even tell. You wouldn't have known if I hadn't told you. That was a learning lesson. So if you're ever doing something like this, I would really think through the mounting and just how everything is meeting up and the gap of the wall and how it's just, I think honestly, we should have mounted them in pairs, but we didn't because of my sister's party. We were like, okay, let's do one set and then we'll do the other, just because having 5 of these would look better than just having like a few random low shelves. Honestly, if we had mounted them in pairs, probably wouldn't have happened, but it's just the way the cookie crumbled. Me and Mr. Bug learned a lot about wood and each other. From the beginning, we naturally took on different roles. He was more of the manual labor and the woodworking, and I was more of the aesthetics and applying the different stains and liquids. Obviously, we dipped into each other's categories and we helped each other out and participated in everything, but it was nice having an understanding of who enjoyed what more and who was better at what. I learned that I tend to catastrophize. I need to take take breaks. I need to go have a little cry. I need to go sit over there for 10 minutes and then I can come back to the situation, whereas he is more cool, calm, collected, which was crucial, honestly. I think it'd be very difficult if you had two people like me, people who like get overwhelmed and like need to go take a break, take a breather, come back to it the next day. It is nice to have someone who's a little bit more steady, even keel. Ideally, we could both be like that, which is something I could work on. We both learned that we can abandon a project and neither of us are good at keeping up momentum. We started this project before my boyfriend's 30th birthday party. Like that is why we started this project, is we wanted these shelves up before that party. And then we mounted half the shelves before my sister's shower. If we had planned another party, we definitely would have mounted the rest of them. And I'm not saying 1 or 2 people or even 5 people. Like we need 20 people coming to this house on a certain date. We need an invitation sent out. We need to be like buying liquor, buying snacks. A little ridiculous that we need to trick ourselves to get something like this done by having a party, but it's the truth. Ultimately, I think we really enjoyed this project and I could see us doing more stuff like this in the future. But before we start anything, we would need to lock in, keep up the momentum and really persevere and have a party on the calendar. Y'all, I think that's all I have to say about these shelves. It has been quite the journey. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this point, thank you for your patience. If you have been waiting for this video, I can't believe it's over. And now we get to buy a bunch of books and fill it up. And I think with that, this is goodbye.
Schedule ain't been loose for a minute. Yeah, I'm that girl, I've been it.